What's up, everybody? I guess if you can't beat them, then join them. So here's my crazy out there theories. Only I'm weird, and this probably won't even make sense. Maybe to some of you. I don't know. I've been in the esoteric cookie jar, and this is just playing with some thoughts. You should assume that there's going to be no point to any of this. But this is some stuff kind of on the far side of things that I know just fit into the bigger picture, even though I don't understand it yet. I know some people will be right there gleaming the cube, but it'll pretty much seem like random nonsense for the most part. So you've been warned. Um, the one thing that does make sense though is this probably Alexandra's channel. You guys should definitely check her out. I'll try to remind you at the end of the video. But she talks about all the brotherhood's actions all through history that I can't even say. I struck out a long time ago around here. But these are the true power players in our recent history that have made the world what it is today. And if you think of it in the context of most the world got wiped out in the 14th century, 1300s, and the Holy Roman Empire gained control of everything. And then on the other side, you had the brotherhoods kind of keeping different thoughts alive. But she is still doing what truth videos used to be all about. That's all YouTube was back before it got all sidetracked with all the craziness that I don't want to say. But it's good to see some good old school. Yeah, they took over the education here and yada. The other video that really got me thinking about this again was Thunderbolt's project and their hypothesis of the Egyptians using the Ankh and other instruments as electrical devices to stimulate he doesn't necessarily say the pineal gland, but that's what it'd be doing, I guess. And that may seem kind of crazy off the wall, but that actually makes a lot more sense to me that you don't need electricity to build a pyramid. You need sweat. And I've always thought that the mysteries of the ancients go a lot deeper than just these surface things. They were more interested in attainment, enlightenment, immortality, maybe. And that's just an interesting thought that they would be using electricity to stimulate the pineal gland. It reminded me of thoughts I had way back in the day that I can't remember how I got there. But, and this is just crazy out there thought experiment type thing, but I feel like it's close to a ballpark of something. It's the idea that there is what I'm going to call hyper-evolution of human consciousness through the cosmic lightning, like an evolutionary leap forward. Like human DNA shifted, all animal DNA shifted, or just consciousness on a spiritual level fundamentally changed. Going by the little we do know about history, it seems like we downgraded last cycle because Noah and the Sumerian tales talk about people living 800 years. But what if it were the other way around? What if you hyper evolved into a much more advanced state of being? Honestly, I don't think that that's what happened. It's just, I feel like it's something close to that, though. But I just wanted to put that in the back of your mind and then get into some of this Gnostic type stuff. Now, I remember reading Manly P. Hall in the mountains in a tent up in Colorado. And yeah, we're just being completely random here. I probably couldn't find this now, but it left a visual in my head that has stuck with me for years. And it was that the original man that God created was staring down into the abyss of our material world. And I can't remember if he saw his reflection or was just drawn in by it, but he fell into this realm into a sleep, to an illusionment and a mixing of matter and spirit. Now, to take that a step further, there's only one man or man woman. The Gnostics view the gods and a lot of things as androgynous, both sexes, where you're always seeking a balance of the masculine and feminine powers. But there's only one spirit of human. There's only one essence of human. And if you have that in one body, then it's going to be more powerful. And I don't remember how the first woman came into that story, but if you subdivide down each time, the more and more people get spread out of the same essence, the weaker they are, the more watered down it is. And there are people out there that can explain all this a lot more eloquently than I can. But just to finish that line of thinking out, we'll just call them the Brotherhood, all these people with all their strange ideas about this world. If that is what they thought, because, Gnostic knowledge, which I probably should have started with, I'll get it in a second, is that we're trapped here in this soul grinder. And I'll describe that further in a second. But if they think that we all came from the essence of one man and fell into this material spiritual mix, then could they possibly think that the way out of this trap is to get rid of all life, to liberate the essence, if you will, of the original man, spirit of man? I know, we're in crazy town here. But maybe the goal isn't to reduce numbers, it's to eliminate them in order to reunify the one true essence of man that fell into this trap. And I'm sure that sounds just bat poop to a lot of people, but I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out the way they think. I'd say the majority of them are looking for what their idea of enlightenment is, but up on the 33rd floor, who knows what they've got going on. So back to the cosmic lightning hyper-evolution idea. You've got Zeus and his thunderbolt, and he is the father of gods and men, so a creator god. And then you've got Viracocha in the Inca with this crazy headdress and holding serpents, and the serpents represent lightning, and he's the creator god of the Inca. And then you've got Quetzalcoatl, who is a plumed serpent. Once again, you've got the fancy headdress and stuff coming out of his head everywhere, the serpent motif. And wouldn't you know, he's related with lightning and thunder. And he's the god of winds and rain and the creator of all humanity. So why are all these creator gods associated with lightning? We'll get back to that in a minute, and the fallen angels and giants. Let's talk about alchemy, transmutation, and apotheosis, which is literally becoming a god. So alchemy and the philosopher's stone, the very base level of that is turning base metals to gold. And this is probably what they told normal people they were doing with their time, because they wouldn't understand. There's just always been the NPC crowd that it was a waste of time. We're trying to turn lead into gold, man. Don't worry about it. But that was really just metaphoric for reaching enlightenment, or whatever their version of that is. Also, it's called the elixir of life. It's supposed to rejuvenate, and you could even reach immortality if you're at the highest level. But even though they were doing like these chemical experiments, they believed in a spiritual type of power. You had to be spiritually pure to even be able to do the work to produce the philosopher's stone. And supposedly Saint Germain actually did that. There's several videos out there on him. So the alchemists were just kind of the forerunners to the free bros, and they say this: the evolution of man into Superman was always the purpose of the ancient mysteries. And the real purpose of modern masonry is not the social and charitable purpose to which so much attention is paid, but the expediting of the spiritual evolution of those who aspire to perfect their own nature and transform it into a more godlike quality. And this is a definite science, a royal art, which is possible for each of us to put into practice, whilst to join the craft for any other purpose than to study and pursue this science is to misunderstand its meaning. Which sounds all good, sign me up. But they also believe that Lucifer is the illuminated one. Lucifer represents life, thought, progress, civilization, liberty, independence, and is the Logos, the serpent, once again, the savior. That's Madame Blavatsky, that has nothing to do with the free Moes, but they share that line of thinking. And don't get mad at me for reading what other people think. But once again, you've got the serpent motif. In Genesis, it was the serpent who told Eve that if you eat of the tree, your eyes shall be opened and you shall be as gods. Genesis was written by Moses, who was raised and educated by the ancient Egyptians and probably looked more like this than today's version. So, how much of the creation story came from what he was taught growing up around the Egyptians? I mean, it's not said anywhere that God and Moses went up on a mountain and sat down and wrote the Bible. But once again, you have the serpent motif. Could it be referring to something electrical, lightning? And it's related here to a form of awakening, enlightening. Your eyes will be opened. But evidently, it was a bad thing because that's the original sin. I'm just throwing out random stuff here. Let's go back to the Free Bros and the apotheosis of Washington. This is actually painted in the ceiling of the White House or somewhere, one of the main buildings there, and just full of all kinds of crazy symbolism. You know, he's got his dagger and his little hand sign and the fascia or fascia, which I'm pretty sure that is a symbolism of if you take a bundle of sticks and put them together, then you're stronger. And it's got the axe head, so that a bunch of small sticks together are strong enough to chop down a tree. The Native Americans use the analogy of one arrow is easy to break, but a whole quiver full is strong. You can't break it. And it's symbolizing a tribe staying together. Unity in numbers. You know, it's a bunch of loose sticks that are tied together with an axe head. But I don't know. It could be an earthquake machine, if anybody remembers that. But going on to the other symbolism, I actually got kind of some goosebumps because I didn't know this before I started this video, which, once again, goosebumps are just your little electrical charges. I mean, everything is this electrical energy in the universe. Our bodies literally run on electrical impulses to stimulate the muscles. That's how we drive these little meat machines. So is that we're truly electrical in nature or something? It's really hard to explain something that I don't understand. I'm walking you guys through a process of me trying to figure something out that I don't know what it is. But there's something here because check this out. Freedom, also known as Columbia, which is a ancient goddess, is seen trampling figures representing tyranny and kingly powers. To her left, assisting her, is a fierce bald eagle carrying arrows and a thunderbolt. Now let's go over here. Minerva, the Roman goddess of crafts and wisdom, is portrayed with a helmet and spear pointing to an electrical generator creating power stored in batteries next to a printing press. I think you can at least now see why I decided to make this video, and I don't even remember what it was that originally put me onto this idea. But you do need to remember this is kind of the beginning of our modern technological age as well. And so you've got Neptune, the Roman sea god with his trident, and he's depicted helping to lay the transatlantic telegraph cable. Mercury, the Roman god of commerce, with a caduceus, once again, the serpents. And these are all the Roman gods because this culture was not as far back in time as they tell us it was. I mean, this is Voltaire's funeral, a full-on Roman funeral in the 1700s. There were a lot of people fighting against the Holy Roman Empire to keep Roman culture alive. And it would appear that your average man on the street all knew about the Roman gods because, like Victor Hugo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, it talks about all the old Roman gods just like you're supposed to know them. It's because his audience did. But apotheosis is the act of becoming a god. George Washington becoming a god. And there's all these references to electricity. Now, becoming god-like, what is that? What do you mean by that? Is that used in the sense of lasting as long as the stars, or in the sense that stars are pure cosmic energy? All the ancient Americans said that they were from different stars. And there's just definitely a tie between the spirit and the stars. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. What brought Frankenstein to life? The lightning. And I think this might be working off the old golem legends, which I'll talk about in a minute. I just thought of this. He-Man. This is going to show how old I am. He-Man was regular guy around the castle, I guess, and then he would come out and raise his sword up and say, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power." And then he would get struck by lightning and he transforms into He-Man. And he's got this tiger that's a little cowardly tiger until this happens. And then he turns into this badass armored feline that He-Man rides. Once again, a transformation. And I got to show the original artwork because, yeah, this is what we had when I was a kid. A little bit of subliminal eroticism back in its early days. All right, this is night 3 of recording this. Is anybody still listening here? I know this is all over the place. Journey album covers. I'm actually heading towards Tool here, but I thought of Journey and the Scarab Beetle, the Flying Disc, the Infinity Symbol or Analema. And all of their album covers is this Egyptian mysticism kind of theme. And you know all these higher ups are into one cult or another. And the Escape album cover is just kind of crazy. You've got the Scarab Beetle escaping, just shattering through and breaking up what I'm sure most would call the firmament. And maybe that's what it is, but the ancients did think of the heavens as the sphere of the heavens, and I think it was the earth propping everything else up, in their opinion. The original statue of Atlas had him holding up the sphere of heaven, not earth. Anyway, Hollywood and the music industry are into heavy, weird stuff. Okay, so Tool. Awesome musicians, and I think of it like this. They hit rock royalty, and Maynard got taken out to a Bavarian castle for a couple weeks and got jumped straight to the 31st degree. And he just wrote a whole album about it because nobody's going to know. Just to peruse one of them, some say the end is near, some say we'll see Armageddon soon. Certainly hope we will. Could use a vacation from this three-ring circus sideshow of freaks. And he was calling LA hopeless back in, when was this, the 90s or something? And it's gotten 10 times worse since then. But the only way to fix it is to flush it all away, learn to swim. The way I see it, that's just the way they think. I mean, if you were raised up knowing that we have these cycles and you're from a rich, powerful family, I don't care who you are, how moral you think you are, you're going to look at the masses as a bunch of dumb sheeple. I mean, if you're watching this video, then most of us acknowledge this fact that everybody's just automatons, or a big percentage of our population. But it seriously sounds like he got told about all of this, and some say a comet will fall from the sky, followed by meteor showers, tidal waves, fault lines that can't sit still, and everybody's just going to be dumbfounded. They don't have any idea that this stuff happens. And hey, mom's going to fix it all soon. Mom's coming around to put it back the way it ought to be. Everybody knows about the phoenix and the death through fire and rebirth. And the initiated know what that means. Order out of chaos. Okay, back to cosmic lightning, transformation. The song 46 and 2, I guess unofficially what it means is we have 46 total chromosomes right now. 44 are autosomes and 2 are sex chromosomes. So 46 and 2 would be a step up the evolutionary ladder. 48 total chromosomes. And the song has this cool little symbol that is like the symbol of Jupiter and Saturn probably combined. I don't know, great conjunction, and you can easily make out 3/6s in there, which they love to throw into advertising everywhere and logos. But we'll go through the lyrics here and think of it in terms of you're living just short of your godhood of the 46 and 2 chromosomes. Been crawling on my belly, clearing out what it could have been. I've been wallowing in my own confused, insecure delusions. I want to know what I've been hiding. And then he uses the shadow and the change coming, the shedding skin. The ancients also held a serpent in high regard because it did shed its skin and it was like it rejuvenated and was born over again. And, you know, your whole Plato's cave allegory, where you're just seeing the shadows on the wall of the real existence here, and then stepping through my shadow, coming out the other side, 46 and 2 just ahead of me. So I'm not going to go through the whole album, but it all is geared towards that direction. You know, the best examples being the Armageddon Soon and then the Transformation. And, you know, the album cover is this weird white flash that is reminiscent of a lot of the ancient artwork. I mean, you could loosely go from Medusa to the plumed serpent with that, you know? And I don't know. This may all just be in my head. I may just be crazy here, but that's what it seems like to me. I really liked this band when this album came out. Still do. I think they're amazing musicians. But it wasn't until after years of internet esoterica investigation that I started seeing something more to what he was saying here. It's a subject that unfortunately I recognize a lot of it when I see it, but it's hard for me to just kind of put all this in a logical order for a video. So if you're still listening, though, you're still listening. So on a certain level, this stuff kind of makes sense in the back of my mind. Now that I think about it, most of these comic book heroes fit this mold of hyper-evolution. The Hulk gets exposed to radiation and becomes a super angry guy. Spider-Man gets bit by the radioactive spider, you know, in both cases, a radiation charge. The Flash got hit by lightning. And then, you know, like all the X-Men are just these genetic mutants that have special powers. And they got the mutant powers through a celestial energy. Anyway, that's all just the crazy weird stuff in the back of my head when I saw Thunderbolt's project about the Egyptians shocking each other. It was the Ankh, a type of electrical device, and they put like a shock on the nose and electrically stimulate the brain. It might not be as out there as we think. I don't know. First off, the headdress, a lot of times they'll have the serpent up there on the forehead. And yeah, they keep holding the Ankh up like they're going to shock his nose with it. First thing, I got to say that the Lost Ancient high technology, I'm the biggest skeptic in the world of. I think simple machines and levers account for 95% of all the ruins that we have everywhere. But I don't think they were driving around giant forklifts and cutting rocks with lasers and whatever it is that they're suggesting. Nobody will ever tell you what they think, how they think they did it, just that they couldn't have done it. And I'm highly skeptical of all that. This makes more sense to me than that they were using this for a spiritual, conscious changing experience. For some reason, it just makes more sense to me. I'm crazy. I know the history of the battery. I know all kinds of weird little facts about how technology got to where it is today. But our first sources of electricity were two different types of metal plates in a saline solution, and you stack them alternatively, like what is being shown here. And I could buy into this being a capacitor or a battery of sorts, but they're always touching their head, and they've got the strange headdresses. And what Thunderbolt's project was suggesting about the headdresses is that it's focusing the energy in special ways. In this one, you can see that a couple of them are up on a platform, and then the guy in the middle that's about to receive the energy to his brain is actually grounded. And I mean, even if you think about the pyramids being the inner room being made out of solid granite, then you're going to still be grounded if you're standing on it. But if the two guys next to him were standing up on wooden platforms, then they wouldn't be grounded. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can touch a power line standing on a wood deck. I just did it last week. The electricity can flow right through you and you're not grounded, so it doesn't affect you. So the two animal-headed people are holding these rods, and you actually see the markings that are going through the rods follow down through the headdress of the people standing there. But if you look at this electrically, then the two guys aren't grounded. They're holding a charge. They're going to touch the head of the pharaoh or whoever who is grounded and send a charge. It will follow that path from one side of the head to the other. Well, actually, if he's grounded, then it would go down through. But I don't know. It's just, it is an interesting idea. Here in this black and white, you've got the crazy headdress on, and we'll call him Pharaoh, sitting there holding two electrodes in his hands. He's sitting on a wood platform to where now he's not grounded. The two on either side would be. And I would say Anubis holding on to one side of his hand has something to do with the electrical circuit, provided this is what's really going on. But if her hand is on the back of his head and then he touches the ankh to his nose, then that would pass the electricity straight through the brain, right? If he's not grounded, then it wouldn't seek ground through him. It would just continue the circuit straight through his brain and the crazy headdress directing all the energy. I'm sure everybody's seen the big, huge light bulb. And to be perfectly honest, I've tried to find every way possible to explain it as something other than a light bulb, but it looks like a giant light bulb on a cord. And then you've got the capacitor looking thing with the two arms outspread like a Jacob's ladder, whatever that machine is. But what I've never noticed, and Thunderbolts points out, is look at the top of their heads and that little ball of light going there. I don't know. Definitely something crazy going on there. And here we are again, touching each side of the head. I mean, seriously, what's up with that? Yeah, I mean, it could be something symbolic, but it looks like a literal laying on of hands. Anyway, that's probably enough craziness to absorb for one video. I guess I'll leave with this thought. They thought of the gods, everything being alive, having a spirit. And I'm using gods in the sense of the stars and the wandering stars, the planets. So did they equate those forces to electricity? Probably not in so many words, but the cosmic spark, like a deeper understanding of the electric universe. I think humans have been just as intelligent, or probably more so, for the last few thousand years that we've been in our present form in this world age, and their priorities aren't what our priorities are. You know, they've got us running on a treadmill just to be able to eat and have a roof over our head and electricity. But I've always thought where the ancients were in advance of us was in spirituality. And possibly they were using electricity to stimulate that, like a hallucinogen, which is something I should do a video on because it's an experience that everybody should have. If we still lived in tribes and every month got together on the full moon and did shrooms together in packs 100, the world would be so much better of a place. And I know some people think those are horrible and it's the path to the devil, and they just don't understand. The best way I ever heard it was this Spanish priest was hanging out with the Aztecs, and they used to do a bunch of shrooms, and he said, "I have drank mushroom wine and my heart weeps." It does change your consciousness to a more of the immortal level. It will help you recognize that you are immortal and that you're just in this big energy-filled cosmic soup. And they can give you a moral beatdown. I mean, it will strip you down to your core to where everything else is completely irrelevant and child's play, and you'll realize the most important factors in your current life situation. Anyway, it really is something that you can't explain to somebody that hasn't done it. But pretty much all of the ancient people that I know of used ethnobotanicals in one way or another. And maybe the Egyptians learned how to bypass the chemical process and just stimulate directly with electricity. I always did kind of freak out, cringe a little bit when they talk about mummification. They'd pull the brain out through the nose. So that you can tell that that was the most direct path to the brain in their conception of reality. So an onk to the nose. I don't know. I have to study into that a little bit and see what kind of electro lucigens are out there. Anyway, that's enough out of me. If you made it this far, you're a trooper. Static out.